Module 5, Secondary Storage Structures and Protection. This is Pradeep Kumar, faculty from Department of CSC, AJIET Mangaluru. So this Module 5, according to our curriculum, is divided into 3 parts actually. The first part is we are discussing about the secondary storage structures. This is the first part. Second part is protection, and another part is a case study. It's a case study on a Linux file system. So as a case study. So we again we are discussing on these different topics in 3 stages. The first stage or first part we are taking the secondary storage structure. Second part we are discussing on protections, various protection mechanism, and then third part, as a third part, we'll take the Linux file system as a case study. Okay. So moving further, we'll by considering secondary storage structure as a first part. In this secondary storage structures, we are going to discuss about overview, general overview about the mass storage structures or secondary storage structure. So why we took mass storage is nothing but we are going to store the volumes, number of files, the large files. So that's why we took the name mass storage structure. Then disk structure, how it is built, disk attachment, disk scheduling, various disk scheduling algorithms, one of the important topic under this part, and then disk management and swap space management. So these are the topics we are going to cover in detail, and almost in depth also we are going to cover these many topics. Moving further, so first topic, just an overview. From the history or from the inception of computers, we were making use of magnetic disks as a bulk storage, provide bulk of secondary storage, even if modern computers. So at that times, the drives rotate at 60 to 250 times per second. 60 to 250 times per second. So during that particular period, the transfer rate is rate at which data flow between drive and computer. That is the transfer rate. So these are the few terminologies that we make use. One is transfer rate, positioning time. So the positioning time again divided into random access time, seek time, and rotational latency. So MAGATAP, you're supposed to calculate the access time. So by using a formula, we'll see that. So the transfer rate is nothing but the rate at which data flow takes place between drive and computer. When we say drive, it may be floppy disk drive, it may be hard disk drive, it may be pen drive, anywhere, wherever we intended to copy the particular file, where we intended to have our file. So the transmission from the computer towards drive or data flow either to the drive or from drive to computer. Say when we say, on the other hand, both are together may form computer, or we may place a hard disk in a computer. So from the screen, if you consider, after processing or during the process, what is the data flow between, or the data is captured from the disk to the computer or for the processing, or on the other side. So that is what we call transfer rate. Then we have something called positioning time. This positioning time, on the other way, you may call it as random access time. So this is time to move disk arm to desired cylinder. That is nothing but seek time. To move the disk arm to desired cylinder. You'll see that diagram so that you'll get to understand easily. And time for desired sector to rotate under the disk head, that is rotational latency. So we'll see this particular definition part with the help of a diagram. Positioning time is nothing but time to move disk arm to desired cylinder. We'll go to the over here. So now we have this particular cylinder. This entire thing is called as cylinder. The dashed line. Please follow my cursor. The dashed line. This is a cylinder. So each cylinder may have n number of platters. This is a platter. So to identify your file under which disk, that is random access time. So this is ARM assembly. So to move the ARM assembly with their read write head to a particular disk in that cylinder. So that is what the first part is, random access time. Second part is the time for desired sector to rotate under the disk head. Rotate the disk under a disk head for a particular sector. Consider the situation now. We may kept a particular file over here. So we have a file in this particular disk. We identify the disk in this cylinder. So to move this head towards this, no need to move this one. However, the platter will rotate. So the rotation from this particular point to over here. So that is the second part of this. That is rotational latency or delay in rotation. That is what this particular terminology. And now we have another term, that is head crash. So this head crash is nothing but when the disk head makes contact with the disk surface. If that goes wrong, that is head crash. The disk surface, if it couldn't read, how it couldn't read? Disks, the CD drive or CD drive might have corrupted. If it is a bad disk, then it is a head crash. So now disks can be removable, can remove the disk, even floppy disk, pen drive, CD drive, DVD, right? So all these can be removable. So we supposed to attach a computer. That disk can be attached to a computer via IO bus, input output bus. If you are installing your disk drive within a computer, that is dabba, CPU dabba, then we must need a IO bus. So this is the buses or connectors may vary along with these different kind of buses. On the other way, in general, in the local terminology, we may call it as cable. We may have EIDE cable, ATA cable, SATA cable, USB cable, fiber channel cable, SCSI, SAS, firmware. So these are the different kinds of channels or cable. On the other way, you can say cables that we may use to connect with different drives, either disk drive or our floppy drive or any other. So in which machine we are going to install this particular drive. So that is treated as host computer. So that is host computer in computer uses bus to talk to disk controller built into drive or storage array. So that is in which machine we incorporated a particular disk. So that particular disk, that particular machine is called as host controller in that computer. It will control all this. So how this magnetic disk is? So each magnetic disk made up of number of platters. So each platter may range from 0.85 inch to 0.4. Commonly, we may have 3.5 inch, 2.5 inch and 1.8 inch. That is platters range. So when we say range, we may have a disk drive from 30 GB to 3 TB. That is maybe below per drive, per disk drive. So maximum up to 3 TB. Nowadays we may getting around 4 TB hard disk also. So starts from 30 GB hard disk to 3 TB hard uh, 3 TB hard disk per particular disk. And then how the performance is measured. Performance of each individual magnetic disk can be measured in the term of transfer rate. So in general, we may say this particular transfer rate theoretically 6 GB per second. So this, when we say transfer rate, which is nothing but the time taken to copy a data to the disk from computer or on the other side, or the rate at which the data flown. That is how the definition is. Transfer rate is nothing but the rate at which data flown between the disk drive and the computer. So that is transfer rate. So theoretically it is 6 GB per second. But realistically, an effective transfer rate may be of around 1 GB per second. This effective in general or real time. So what will be the seek time to look after, to trace out which platter? So that is seek time from 3 milliseconds to 12 milliseconds. 3 to 12 milliseconds, it may vary the seek time. But on an average, we may have 9 milliseconds. It is common for all the desktop drives. So when we say desktop drives, may includes your laptop also, or maybe your portable hard disk as well. So in general, it may vary from 3 milliseconds to 12 milliseconds. That is seek time. And average seek time can be calculated based on 1/3 of tracks. So based on total number of tracks, the average seek time may be calculated. And latency or delay based on spindle speed, that is, the latency can be calculated based on 1 by RPM into 60. RPM is rotation per minute. We are converting into seconds, that's why into 60. Then average latency equal to half latency. So we'll see some notations on each drives. Consider you bought a CD drive from the market. So on the one side, you can see some terminologies, a manufacturer's name, manufacturer's logo, symbol, and something like 4200X1 or 10, something like that. There is nothing but spindle rotation per minute. So 4000 we may have on an average. So these are the different spindle rotation per minute RPM. So based on this, so this is the average latency. So for 4200 rotations per minute, we may have an average latency of 7.14 millisecond. For 5400, we may have up to 5.56 average latency. For 7200, we may have up to 4.17 latency. For 10,000, we may have 3, 15,000, we may have 2. So these are left side, first column is nothing but rotations, the spindle. So how this performance is measured? We have seen some of the formula over here. Performance is measured based on these particular terminologies: transfer rate, effect transfer rate, seek time, average seek time, and latency. So access latency is calculated with the average seek time plus average latency. On the other hand, access latency is nothing but average access time. So to calculate this one, we are supposed to know average seek time plus average latency. So average seek time, so we may get from here, from 3 milliseconds to 12 milliseconds, 9 milliseconds in general in common. And average latency based on this particular rotation, so this is the latency. Then, so we may had a faster disk, 3 milliseconds, that is average seek time, plus 2 milliseconds, there is a delay. So 5 milliseconds is the access latency, total delay. For slow disks, say disk may have 9 milliseconds average seek time plus 5.56 millisecond as a average latency, then 14.56 millisecond, it is a total access latency. This as an example. Then we have another terminology, that is average IO time. So this average IO time is nothing but average access time plus the transfer rate, amount to transfer rate plus controller overhead, the load. Transfer rate, total amount to transfer divided by transfer rate plus controller overhead. So we'll see a small example over here. For example, to transfer a 4 KB block on a 7200 RPM disk with the 5 millisecond average seek time and 1 GB per second transfer rate with 0.1 millisecond controller overhead. So how to calculate average IO time? So average access time. So average access time is according to the given data, that is 5 millisecond average seek time. Then, so average access time is ready. Okay. And then 4.17, what it is? 4.17, controller overhead. Sorry, controller overhead is 0.1. 0.1 is controller overhead. Then transfer rate is 1 GB per second. Total transfer, that is 4 KB. So 4.17 is based on 7,200. So according to this, 4,200 had 7.14. Right. Sorry, 7,200 spindle, which is having average latency 4.17. So that is what we included here. That is to be added. This average access time. Average access time is nothing but average seek time. Average seek time is 5 ms plus average latency. Average latency is 4.17 for 7,200 plus 4 KB. 4 KB, that is amount to transfer, amount that is 4 KB block should be transferred on 1 GB per second speed plus 0.1 millisecond, that is controller overhead. So by calculating this, we'll get 9.39 millisecond as average IO time, average IO rate. So we'll see the disk structure or disk mechanism, how it is. So in this diagram, we can see a detailed structure of a hard disk. Please follow my cursor. We have a ARM assembly. So this ARM assembly will have number of arms. These individual arm will hold individual platter, and along with that each arm will have a read write head on its top. So what is its job? ARM assembly will look after into each individual platters. Platters are nothing but magnetic discs, magnetic coated discs. One or number of magnetic discs, a number of platters can be loaded into a cylinder. Cylinder is nothing but it is a bag containing number of platters. This is based on the manufacturer. So each individual platter will have one separate arm to monitor read write. So that is via read write head. To control all these number of platters, we should have a spindle to hold it strongly on the center. We'll use the terminology spindle. It will hold all those platters. And each platter will have number of tracks, like in a relay track, number of tracks. And each track is divided into number of sectors. So each sector is identified by the term S. Each track may be identified by the term T, cylinder C, saying that a C cylinder will have n number of platters. Each platter contains T number of tracks with S number of sectors. Saying that, for example, you have written a C program, say hello world. Hello world should be printed on the screen. So you're supposed to save the program in your hard disk. So how it can be done? ARM assembly will treat you as a VIP, and it will find out any one platter can hold your hello world.c file. So we need a disk controller to look after all this. This controller will assign the ARM assembly to look after this exercise. This controller identifies any one platter can be copied that particular hello world.c file. Then, so this read write head will allocate that particular platter and identify a space in the track, identify the tracks, and identify a sector. In that sector, you're supposed to copy hello world.c file. While reading that particular from whenever you wanted to read that particular file, so this read write head will look after that particular track, look after that particular sector, so that that particular file can be read. So this is how the disk structure mechanism is. Any doubt, any clarification, please ask. Okay, so moving further. So at first, the first disk drive in 1956. In 1956, Ramda computer included the IBM Model 350 disk storage system. So what it had? It had 7-bit, 5 mega characters, 50 into 24-inch platters. Access time is less than 1 second. So this is in this particular diagram, whatever you can see in this particular box. So that is a disk drive. So it had 5 million, 5 mega characters, 5 million characters, which is of 7-bit in size, and in which it had 50 into 24-inch platters. Total number of 50 platters. You may observe here in the form of cylinders. Within a cylinder, total 50 numbers of platters. If you identify my cursor on the screen, you can follow that the cylinder which holds all this. So here you can see as a what it is, arm to look after this, and access time is less than 1 second. Moving further with the magnetic tape. So this is, it was an early secondary storage medium, magnetic tape, and it evolved from open spools to cartridges from the initial stages. It is relatively permanent and holds large quantities of data, permanent storage and large amount of data, large quantities of data. So for this one, you can give an example of movie reel. On the other hand, in local, if you say, so it is permanent magnetic tapes can hold entire movie, right? So that is large quantities of data can be saved. But what will be the difficulties with this? Access time is slow. So if you can't skip any individual shot in between because it should start from the beginning. So access time is slow. So random access may take 1,000 times slower than the disk. It varies. In general, this magnetic tape is used for backup or having a copy for emergency situations and can store infrequent user data. So if you are making use of a particular disk once in a month, then you can call it as a backup data. Sorry, backup disk. So because you are making use of infrequently, not continuous, and you are making use of you are just making use to transfer some file from your computer to that particular disk. Just have a backup as a transfer medium from one machine to another machine. If there is no network, no LAN setup, then you can have a pen drive, copy that file from your machine and send it to your friend. And so we can keep that this particular magnetic tape in spool and wound or rewound past read write head. It's nothing but to say, for example, for this one, we can give a best example, like once upon a time, around in 90s, we had tape recorders. So we can rewind and play, can fast forward, and then supposed to rewind it, or we can turn the side and put that cassette into the cassette player. Tape recorders, same thing applicable over here, magnetic tapes. So this is how we supposed to get back to previous data. Then, so once the data under head, transfer rates comparable to disk, that is 140 MB per second and greater. So if everything is ready, then the transfer rates comparable to disk are 140 MB per second. The maximum up to 1.5 TB of typical storage can be stored from 200 GB. So the strength of magnetic tape. So this is the common technology used to deal with magnetic tapes, LTO 345 and T10000. So these are two technologies used to deal with the magnetic tapes. Coming to the disk structure, as we know, disk when we say disk, each individual disk may have number of platters. Each platter will have number of tracks, again based on the manufacturer Sony, HP, Transcend, or any other company. So based on each company's and based on each drive's strength, say if it is a 700 MB of CD drive, then for example maybe around 50 tracks may have been created by the company. So each track may have number of sectors, right? So now when we say this particular kind of setup, number of platters, number of tracks, number of uh, sectors, tracks and sectors, is nothing but how we can manage with that. We supposed to manage with arrays. So now in general, each disk drive are addressed as large as one dimensional arrays of logical blocks. So why we took this one dimensional array, that is with respect to sector. So we can have a block of data in that one sector. So that's why we may need enough with one dimensional arrays of logical blocks, where the logical block is the smallest unit of transfer, maybe 1 KB of size or below that bits. So each block can be divided into common block, common sized block, then we'll call it as one dimensional array. So the one dimensional array of logical block is mapped into sectors of the disk from the beginning. So each block is nothing but one sector in general. We supposed to name, we supposed to give an ID, a sequence number for each individual sectors. So we may start from sector 0, sector 1, sector 2, sector 3 and so on. So sector 0 is the first sector of the first track and the outermost cylinder. So if you coming back to the previous setup here, so consider my cursor, follow my cursor please. So this is one sector, this particular sector is innermost. Similarly, we may have, this is the one track in the innermost corner. Next outer another track, another, and so on. So whatever the sector we have in this outermost and the beginning, so that will be treated as first sector, zeroth sector. First sector, the first track in the outermost cylinder. Then we supposed to map it for each logical blocks. Each sector is mapped with each logical block. So how we will map that? So we need the disk controller. Disk controller's job is to mapping all those. Mapping proceeds in order through that track, then the rest of the tracks in that cylinder, and then through the rest of the cylinders from outermost to innermost. So from outermost to innermost, we supposed to save it or log in, saying that in the outermost cylinder, outermost track with the first sector treated as sector 0 and so on with the sequence number. So innermost sector will be loaded last. We'll start from outermost so that ease of access. And why we go with that? Because it is logical to physical address. Should be easy to treat with the individual logical blocks so that we can relate individual logic blocks into physical address. Mapping is become easier. But we have some situations when we have a bad sector. If there is any damage happened with your disk drive, then it will come up with the bad sectors. It is very difficult to read read the data from that particular position, or it is very difficult to write to that particular position. It will be treated as bad sector. And non-constant number of sectors per track via constant angular velocity is again a difficult phase. Any clarification? Moving further, we have something called disk attachment. What is this disk attachment? So disk attachment is nothing but each host is supposed to attach its storage through IO ports, talking to IO buses. What do you mean by that? For example, you buy a new hard disk into your machine. You already have a one hard disk. You're supposed to adopt or increase your strength of hard disk. So you bought new hard disk, say 1 TB of hard disk you bought from the market. Now you're supposed to insert that particular hard disk into your machine. So what you'll do, you'll open that CPU, you'll identify the hard disk cable, the flat cable, right? So now you may connect that flat cable into this particular disk. So you are trying to attach it. So saying that using that IO port, by considering the IO buses, you are supposed to attach it. So when we say attaching based on the bus is nothing but a cable. We may follow kind of cables, SCTE, SATA, SCSI, fiber channel, SAN, so on. Number of varieties of cables. So if you go with SCSI, SCSI itself is a bus up to 16 devices on one cable. So we can connect up to 16 devices using that cable. So how to do with that? So we need an initiator to begin with, right? So to attach with the individual disks, so we need an initiator. So that initiator will identify the targets. So what is that SCSI in the other side? It is used to connect computer parts, different parts, say either it is disks or any other parts. More than two connectors, it's nothing but two connectors, right? Major thing is to connect with the cable, other respective devices. It may be any kind, any type, serial interface, right? So now each target can have up to 8 logical units. So each target, nothing but disk attached to the device controller, may be having up to 8 logical units. Fiber channel can be used for high speed serial architecture. Again, with the fiber channel, we may have a switched fabric. So this switched fabric may go with the SAN, storage area network. We'll see that part later, storage area network or SAN. So using SAN, we can connect number of hosts to number of storage units. So it may have IO directed to bus ID, device ID, logical unit. Logical unit numbering, that is LUN. Can hide it using LUN masking technique also. We study that part. So any clarification so far? Any clarification? Any doubt? Moving further, storage array. So if we have more than one disk in a particular machine, then we'll treat it as storage array. On the other way, it is nothing but array of disks, bunch of disks. We have a terminology JBOD, just a bunch of disks, JBOD terminology we use along with the SAN setup, storage area networks. So storage array, again a term, so nothing but when we have array of disks, block of disks, bunch of disks, maybe maybe in the groups of 5, groups of 10, and so on. So how it is kept? So it should have a storage array. Each storage array should have a controller. So what it will do? It will provide different features. It will provide different features to attach hosts. So what are those features? It will have ports to connect host to array, number of hosts, number of machines can be connected to array. It will have memory and controlling software as well. So controlling software in the sense NVRAM as an example, and it may have starting from few to thousands of disks, group of disks, one by one as a platter. So if you consider as an example, if you recall the previous diagram of storage disk storage structure, so where we discussed about each disk may have n number of platters. Similarly, over here storage is nothing but each setup may have thousands of disks, individual disks. So using this, we may have a kind of setup RAID, hot spare, hot swap, all those. Random RAID, random access independent disks. We have several varieties also. So we'll see that part later. Hot spare, hot swap during runtime. Whenever there is a failure with the particular disk, you can change that particular disk. swap that particular disk. There is a major functionality or feature. Then we have a shared storage. So that we may get highest efficiency. And some of the other features like snapshots, clones, thin provisioning, replication, deduplication, etc. These are the some other features related with the storage array. So in general, storage array is nothing but group of disks or array of disks. So to have a control with that, we need a storage array controller. So what the controller will do? It will connect different ports to connect different host with the array. It will have a memory controller with the software as well. It will have thousands of disks. It will have some other features like RAID, hot spare, hot swap, and so on. So we'll see a setup over here, storage area network. So with respect to this storage area network, if you consider, so divide this entire diagram into two parts. So when we say SAN, that is storage area network, so each storage area network may have number of storage array. So each storage array may have number of disks. So consider a situation, each storage array may have 10 number of disks in each. So 10 disks over here, 10 here, 10 here, total 30. So this may belong with along with the tape library as well. You may have magnetic tapes more than 10. So this entire setup is connected to a network. That's why storage area network, so that anybody can access these particular storages. Then it may be connected to server or to different processing center or for a website or a front end as a front end. So now please follow my cursor together. Then from this server we need a separate connection as a local area network or wide area network or internet, so that client can access. Consider a situation as we are a client, we supposed to write a sample C program or Java program, and that we supposed to store it in disk. Say we are making use of storage area network or SAN setup. Then each client should log in into LAN or WAN setup and request service from the server. So that server can be connected. Each server may access individual storage array so that data can be read and written to the disk or from the disk, so that each individual client can access that particular kind of setup. That is how SAN works. So this may have data processing center and web content provider as well. So that is SAN is nothing but one or more storage arrays which may be connected to or using FC switches, fiber channel switches. Very efficient, very fast. So it can also attach to the other switches as well, normal switches, so that any two different network layers can be connected together, and so that we may have a LUN masking capacity also. Logical unit numbering is to be masked from specific arrays to specific servers, so that no client will be knowing that which storage array is having which particular file via using this LUN masking kind of setup. And it is very easy to add or remove storage, or to add new host, or you may allocate its storage because of low latency, because we are making use of FC, fiber channel fabric switches, fiber channel cables. It's very fast, very efficient, so that it is very easy to add and remove the storage, and we can very easily add new host, new clients can be added, and we may allocate it storage also for a new host. But we may have separate storage networks and communication network. So consider these two, iSCSI and FCOE. So we'll see in detail about this one in our next session. So any clarification if you have, you may raise and you may ask.